Hello and welcome to Bookish and Unbalanced, the podcast that talks all about the good, the bad, and the ugly and beautiful of mental health in the queer book community. I'm Amy Spencer.
I'm Adrienne J. Smith.
And I'm Katie Trapp.
We all have a state of mental health and neglect talking about it, or worse yet, we're ashamed to talk about it. Let's break that stigma. On today's episode, we're interviewing author Rachel Bowdler.
Yay!
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the books you write?
Yep, thank you for having me on. I'm Rachel. I'm from Manchester and I write queer love stories, usually with working class or northern characters and plus size female main characters as well.
Don't you also have another pen name for your poetry, though?
It's like, am I supposed to say more?
You can say the poetry bit as well if you want.
I do. I also write poetry under a pen name, which explores more of mental health things and chronic illness, and basically just a little stream of consciousness where I like to put things, and if I get enough to publish it, then I do.
I don't know too much about you. Can you share maybe a bit more about just about who you are? Because I know we've interacted like across social media, but that's about it. So,
well, I'm not good at talking about myself, clearly. I originally started writing romance when I started working for Scribd, who were looking for like freelance authors and things. And then from there, I was self-publishing after I got the rights back, what I was publishing there. So that's kind of how I fell into writing. And I'm really glad for that. I work from home, so because of like mental health and chronic illness. So that's been handy. And then, yeah, from there, I started writing Honeymoon for One, which got me my agent. And then I was published with Embla Books. And now I am currently, it was just revealed today that I'm bringing out a book with Harper North, which is the northern imprint of HarperCollins in the UK. And that's going to be a steamy romance with a bi main character.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I've been very lucky.
I had a thought and I lost it. Oh, yeah, the rights back thing. I'm going to be doing that shortly. And that sounds like a fun and scary adventure. And by fun, I mean not fun.
Yeah, it meant that I was publishing things consecutively for like a really long time. And then there was all different release dates because some of it was published by Scribd and then some of it was published by me. So it's been quite chaotic. And then to kind of, when that all slowed down, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? Because I didn't really have a plan past that. And Scribd stopped taking books from people. So yeah, that was a journey. But altogether it's helped me write shorter works as well, because they wanted novellas and I wasn't that experienced with writing any sort of length before. I did a creative writing degree and that's kind of where most of it came from, other than writing on Wattpad as a teenager. But yeah, it's been helpful to kind of learn how to write for a specific length and write for audiences that just want something quick and tropey, and that's where we're at.
Yeah. I did, because I'm technically hybrid, and so I have books with publishers and books with that I do on my own as well. And I just remember that first year, it was like every 2 weeks I had a book releasing. And I was like, why would anyone think this was a good idea? But it was because it was all coming out from different people and they primarily picked the dates, and then I had to fit my own in there. And I released like 10 books in like 4 months, and I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then there was like a season of nothing, and I was like, what am I doing?
I did find that it stopped making the releases as special. Like I kind of stopped celebrating them because they became such a common thing. I don't know if you found the same, but
yeah, I did. And I envy people that I envy newer authors that still get to be like, oh, I'm gonna have a release party and it's gonna be fun and we're gonna go to the bar with my friends. And I'm like, yeah, if I did that, like I would be drunk all the time, because
yeah,
there was, especially that one year, it was really bad. And I do envy that, because I think that excitement is really important and wonderful to see. And I love celebrating with other people who can have that excitement. But yeah, even now, I don't celebrate releases. Like, I'll have one of the two of them message me and they're like, happy release day. And I'm like, oh, is it? I forgot.
Yeah, I started celebrating when I got traditionally published for the first time, and I actually found it really overwhelming. So I'm kind of just happy to celebrate on my own now. Like, I don't really need a big party or anything. Like, even going through the process again now with my new book, it's very anxiety inducing, like things going up on NetGalley and knowing that like it might be big or it might not. It's a lot. So I think it's easier just to keep quiet.
Do you find that waiting game, like as soon as the arcs go out to publication date, like the worst time for you?
Yeah.
I'm in that hell right now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm like,
It's been really quick for me this time around. I started writing in March, I want to say, and it's now on net. It just went up on NetGalley today, so it just doesn't feel ready, and like it's just chaos. I was just doing the proofreads today, and I'm like, I don't want ARC readers to read what I didn't correct yet.
yeah.
It's awful. But everyone should publish. Yay, publishing.
There's great parts to publishing.
Oh yeah. It's not as easy as and wonderful and rewarding as people make out, I don't think.
I know. Well, it is really rewarding most days.
Yeah.
Except as soon as you hit the send button on the arcs, and then you're like, we cannot.
Mm.
So you have mentioned anxiety and struggling with mental health. So what is your experience with mental health issues?
Well, I started noticing that I was a very anxious person in like the back end of sixth form, which is like age 16, 17 here. And it just kind of got worse from there, like struggling just to kind of get into college and then I moved away to Chester for uni, which was difficult to kind of like be away from home when I was going through that as well. But and then, recently there's been like a whole surge of like neurodivergent voices on TikTok and things. And from there, I kind of realized that my anxiety is maybe a little bit connected to autism as well. But it doesn't help, like anxiety has a massive effect, like physical effect on my body as well. So with that comes like IBS, like and just being generally uncomfortable in your skin all the time. So yeah, it's been a journey. I'm still on it. It's difficult most days. And I've not got an official diagnosis or anything, but I am on sertraline, which I've been on for a while. And yeah, it's a journey.
I've shared on the podcast before, my husband struggles with really bad anxiety, and his is the same. It manifests all in his gut. And, he's been on sertraline. He's not on it now because he doesn't like how it made him feel. But yeah, it's more than just a mental health game in a way.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Physical.
It is. And I think like, especially with something like IBS, people think it's just like an excuse to get out of things or just like a little thing that you can easily push past. It's not like officially registered as a disability or anything, and it is like a side effect usually of something bigger, but it can be I think for me it works in like a cycle. Like if I don't feel well physically, I don't feel well mentally, and vice versa. So
yeah, and they can feed into each other. So he has ulcerative colitis, which is part of the IBS family, but it's not like IBS proper.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feeds into each other, and then just being the partner of somebody who has that is always an adventure. And I have some hilarious stories that like he and I will find absolutely hilarious, and everybody else will be like, I can't believe that happened. And I'm like, well, that's why we find it funny. But yeah, it does start to kind of control your life. I always keep saying that I'm going to write a character with ulcerative colitis just for to experience these hilarious moments.
Yeah. I would love to see more characters with digestive problems. Like
Yeah.
it can play such a huge part in your life, and it's rarely kind of talked about in especially romance, in the romance genre. But yeah, I think that's another reason why I struggled so much as well. I didn't know what was happening to me when it was happening. And my nana has Crohn's, so I was like, oh my God, I'm getting IBD as well. Like, I'm going to end up in hospital. All this, like, your mind just jumps to the worst things. But yeah, there's not enough characters out there who are just like real and go through those kind of struggles that aren't necessarily good to talk about in society in general.
Yeah, I laugh. I don't know if you've ever seen How I Met Your Mother, but there's an episode where Lily and Marshall like end up having to use the bathroom while the other person is in there. And it's been like 15 years into their relationship and they haven't done that. And I'm like, dude, that was broken in like 5 minutes. Like
I just couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't be in a relationship like that.
Right? Like it's absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out I wasn't smirking at the fact that you've got digestive issues. I just was smirking at the fact that you both went, yeah, I'd really like to write a character with these sorts of problems. And I just wanted in my head just to go, yeah, because that'd be really fun, like for shits and giggles, which was really like socially inappropriate, but seemed really fitting for the moment.
So
amazing.
Like I have said that to my husband before, like unintentionally when he's having a flare up, and I'll be like, yeah, for shits and giggles or shits and grins or whatever. And then I look at him and be like, yeah, I probably shouldn't say that now. Like in a week from now, it's going to mean something else.
That'll be really funny later on. But
I think you have to joke about it, but there's also like a fine line between it becoming the butt of the joke, especially in media. Like there's always that line from a character like, oh, sorry, I was away, I have IBS, and it's never sincere. And I think that's really the problem for me. Like it was never talked about as a genuine issue. But as I kind of dive more into the community, I see that it does really take hold of a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, it's not the butt of the joke at all. Huh?
Oh, I just realized what I did there.
I think we just covered number 3. Did we not? Just
ask it anyway, because there's other disability rep and ableism.
okay. You are passionate about disability rep, and on the flip side, ableism. You yourself live with chronic issues. We just discussed that. How does that affect your mental health?
I mean, I think, especially because I'm quite young still, like I'm 26, and since 17, my dog wants to say hello.
Oh.
I've been like majorly struggling, and an aspect of it does feel like my life's been taken away a little bit. So I guess writing's really the only thing that I still have like some claim over, and that's still mine, and that I'm still able to do even on like the bad days. So what was the question? My dog distracted me.
How does it affect your mental health?
Yeah, it's kind of easy to feel like for me at least, like you're kind of like pointless now because you can't go out and do the same things that everyone else can do. Like people my age are getting engaged and getting married and like going out every weekend and going on holidays. And for me, especially now that I'm kind of realizing that my autism is part of it as well, like, and having those sensory issues, like nothing is easy for me. Like even just like taking my dog out for a walk, I have to really give myself a pep talk every day to do it. And it can take a really huge toll. It's very exhausting. Like I've been through burnout, and last year it was really difficult for me to write really anything because I was stuck between like, do I have anything to write? Because I don't like get out of the house enough. Like I don't enjoy things as much as I used to. Yeah, it's not great. It can be very depressing, but there's always something at the end of the day. Like whether it's writing or just like a TV show you enjoy. Oh, my dog. He always wants cuddles. You can always find something. And I think that's why I started writing characters who were completely different to me. And now I would much rather try and represent things that I know and that I've experienced. So I did write a character with IBS in my last book, and I'm hoping to write one with autism in my next.
And it
Yeah, I
was,
was thinking, I don't think I've ever read a book with IBS in it.
No. There's Not My Type by Evie Mitchell, which is Crohn's, I want to say, or ulcerative colitis, but I haven't got a chance to read it. But the cover's great. It has toilet roll on it. But that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. Like, it's just, even in general, just disability and mental health in general is not necessarily explored a lot. I know Chloe Liese does a lot of like neurodivergence now in romance, and she has bi characters as well, which is great. But it's definitely something we're still lacking.
yeah, I was gonna say that FOMO, while we always tend to joke about it, is a real thing. And I
Yeah.
think that when you go through being diagnosed with some sort of chronic illness, or there's some major change physically in your body that affects how your body functions, whether it continues into a chronic illness or not, there is that grieving process that has to happen. And that grieving process can take for freaking ever, which is
It
really
can.
annoying. But
Yeah,
I think it's really important just to recognize that that is what it is, right? Because you are having a loss of your abilities, but you're also having a loss of what you thought your life was going to look like and how
absolutely.
you were going to be able to function and
Yeah.
live and be.
Yeah, it's really difficult. And I think in society as well, I think like since COVID, it's been acknowledged a little bit more but I think a lot of people don't realize that you can become like chronically ill or disabled at any time in your life. And able-bodied people probably don't, like appreciate what they have when they have it. I know that I didn't, like, before I really knew what was wrong with me. But it's something that is still not talked about enough. And it's definitely I think people don't realize how isolating it is more than anything else.
I think there's like a certain level of bargaining to it sometimes, isn't there? Like you have to bargain with yourself, right? There's all these things which are, I used to want to achieve or do, and some they don't even have to be like big, like life goals, just things to do in a day.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of like balance in your head, like, what's achievable. Because for me, I'm gonna have to, if I want to do X, Y, and Z, that's going to involve me, I don't know, getting dressed this morning. But getting dressed is going to have to take up like a huge chunk of my energy, which means I probably can't do X, Y, and Z. And I think for some people, like those people who do just get up and go, or don't have that kind of like feeling of being kind of like, it is like having like a weight around you sometimes, like that pull of you having to actually drag yourself do something really, really simple. Like you then have to go through a whole process of bargaining about what's worth that energy, what do I really want to spend that energy on.
Yeah.
And then when you realize those things that you can't achieve because of it, like I imagine there's like a certain like period of like anger, because it has been taken away from you. Like that's not like I never thought I would have to make the choice between, I don't know, cooking my own dinner or taking the dog out today. Which one's it going to be? Because I can't do both.
Yeah. And when that becomes every day, it is just exhausting. And it takes a lot of strength not to like feel that internally on yourself and like blame yourself for that. And I that's another like thing that really damaged me at the beginning, because everybody treats illness like it's you get it and then you overcome it and that's it. Like there's always a happy ending to it. Nobody teaches you how to live with it full time. And I was just waiting and waiting and waiting to feel better and to not feel anxious anymore, for the meds to work and things like that, and it never did. And doctors don't really have much interest in you anyway, like especially with the NHS the way it is, like underfunded, understaffed, like you don't get much support from them. So it really is just about kind of discovering every day what you're able to do and how you can do it and if you can do it. And there's so much that comes with it that people don't realize.
I think too, just the longer term stuff, like you have the day-to-day stuff, but there's also the longer term stuff and goals that make it even harder. And then people really don't understand it. I remember having a conversation with my husband about our wedding, and I was like, I would really like you present for our wedding, which means you need to follow the diet you're supposed to follow and not have cheat days for a significant period of time. Like, I was like, you have to get really strict so that in 6 months from now, you're there. And so when he stopped like going out to the bars and drinking, because that's one thing that can trigger him, and eating the food that he normally would eat, his friends were like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're changing your entire life for this girl. And he's like, well, kind of, but not really, you know. Or like, we went to town this week to go to the baseball game, and I remember him bargaining with himself. He's like, well, I'm gonna have my cheat meal at this time on this day, because if it affects me, it'll affect me when I'm at the hotel room, not when I'm somewhere else.
Yeah. I have a very similar experience. Like if I have to go out somewhere, if I have plans to do something, I have to eat really plain food for like at least a week beforehand. And when it's something as simple as like going to meet a friend for an hour or two, just doesn't feel worth it to like have to restrict yourself in that way. And that in itself is exhausting. And especially with like autism as well, like there's always that weight whenever you have to do anything. So that combined with having to completely change your routine and the things you eat just to do one thing, it's a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that again, like that can be so socially isolating. The amount of times I've cancelled on my friends is not okay, but at this point they know like that is just not something that I can kind of help, because I've done my best with it and then I've done my worst with it, and like either way I end up in a place that's really difficult to kind of get through, and I still end up cancelling whether I'm like trying actively to not flare up or not. So it's it's a it's a long journey, and yeah. I'm trying not to like start complaining too much. I don't think I've ever talked this openly about it before.
Well, it helps when you find people that want to talk about it and are open to listening.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we complain all the time. Sorry.
You do not complain, Katie.
We complain.
We
You
complain.
just listen.
And Katie pretends to complain.
We complain on a daily basis, and every 2 weeks Katie comes in with her one single complaint on like repeat, and then it's the same complaint. We just drop it in like every fortnight, and then we start up again.
Amazing. I think it's hard to find friends who are okay with hearing you complain so often though, because there's a lot of things to complain about, like when your own body is kind of betraying you whenever it feels like. So it is, yeah. I found
I'm not
that
sure Katie knew what she was signing up for, really, to be fair, when she became my friend.
You don't have a choice anymore.
No, I'm in it for the long haul.
So we touched on it a minute ago, but what would you like to see more of in terms of disability rep in queer books in the future?
I would love to see anything. For me, definitely like more stomach complaints. Like I think people don't realize how hard it is just to get through the day when your stomach hurts. Like, and yeah, just in general, just more like I know that I'm not nearly educated enough about other disabilities that I don't live with. My auntie has like rheumatoid arthritis, and that's like completely changed our dynamic within the house, which is another thing that is barely talked about. Like I think arthritis is one of those illnesses that it's just, oh no, you've got sore joints, but it can completely like take your mobility away. But I think whatever it is, I just want to see like people being loved anyway. Like it feels very healing when they still get a happily ever after. And it's kind of like somebody telling you that you deserve one as well, even though you feel like shit most of the time. And of course, like mental health as well. It can feel very like I can feel very detached from things if they're too happy. Like I love a bit of angst in there because it feels real to me, like having darker feelings and like deeper feelings. I always feel a little bit bored if things are just very straightforward and easy for people.
Right there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to see more rep where it's sexy. Like not necessarily the disability is sexy, but like this kind of whole thing, like you've got an illness or you've got a disability or whatever, and therefore the sexiness is out the window. Like that's not true.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys watch Sex Education, but there was a disabled character on there, and they did the like intimate scenes really well with that. Like the disabled character told the other person where to touch him and how he could still enjoy it while being disabled, and that was really great.
I don't think I've gotten that far into it.
Okay, it's good. I enjoy it.
I think I've seen the first 2 seasons. And then I just
Yeah, I think this
watching
might
TV
be
in general.
third.
So
Yeah.
so you are one half of Swords and Sapphics. What is Swords and Sapphics, first off?
It's a podcast all about women and queer representation, and really any other representation we want to talk about, but it's mainly just my best friend and I talking nonsense on a podcast. And we also run a blog alongside it that spotlights queer authors, indie authors, and it's growing a little bit as well. We have a little Discord community going on, which Ames is part of. Yeah, and we now do like writing events, so it's just kind of our attempt at making a little community of people who are like us, like want to see more representation, want to like have more friends, which is it's really nice to be able to have that, especially like when you can feel so isolated in daily life, to kind of build that community. And we do have a little support group on our Discord as well, where you can kind of just go into vent and get a little bit of hug emojis and maybe advice if you need it.
So how do you balance running that along with writing and a day job and all of the impact that that can have on your mental health and your physical health?
I don't balance it well at all. Yeah, Ivy and I every so often have like a mutual breakdown about how we're handling the podcast, because it can be very difficult to find a balance just between us, like our workload. I find that we never ever have the same workload. Like for a while, I'll be working on Swords and Sapphics more than she is, and then vice versa. And then it can kind of cause breakdowns between us, but we always get back up. It's fine. But yeah, it's difficult. Luckily, I don't really have a day job. I am writing, and then when I'm not trying to publish, I'm working on ghostwriting for Upwork, which is just like a little bit of pocket money between. Yeah, but no, I don't balance it well at all. It's very difficult, and I think all I can do is really know when I need to take a break and do it, except my schedule doesn't let me do that, so not really helpful at all. But in an ideal world, I would go for many naps when I need them.
I think that's all of
How
us.
do you recognize when you get to that point?
I think I always realize it too late. I can be aware that I'm like getting tired and things, but then I think I realize that I'm at that point when I'm extremely irritable. Everything's annoying me. My neighbor's lawnmower makes me cry. Like stupid things that I could usually deal with and be brave about, but I just can't be brave about anything anymore. Um, but yeah, it's I think because of the way that society is structured, where you go to school every day and then you go to college and then you go to university and then you get a job, like I think I've just been in and out of burnout for years and not really known that's what it was. Um, so I did make a promise to myself this year to get out of, to not let that happen again, but it doesn't work that way when you need money. So it's really hard to, yeah, it's hard to manage it and even just recognize it, because I'm also, I like to be productive. I like to feel like I'm doing something purposeful, and I love my job. I love writing. So I can sometimes not even realize that it's becoming a chore until it's too late. But I really don't know how people with full-time jobs come home and then write a book as well. Like, that's crazy to me. I could never do that.
Just do it.
No, it doesn't work like that.
I mean, yeah, I don't come home and write because I'm a morning writer, so I get up early and write. So I'm
Oh,
up about 5 o'clock every morning, and that's when I do the majority of my writing time. And then in the evenings, I'm doing like the other stuff, like the
I would love to
admin.
be able to do that, but I can't get out of bed in the morning. It's so
Oh no,
like,
she never said she was out of bed. She said
I'm
she
not
was
okay.
awake. There's a very subtle difference.
But still, um, I think that's like, people don't realize how much time like chronic illness takes from you. Like most of the morning, I'm just trying to calm down my stomach enough to be able to function for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
It's
so my issue is migraines.
okay.
And I have chronic migraines, cluster migraines and vestibular migraines. And once I finally got on the right medication, it was like, oh, this is what
Mhm.
productivity looks like. I
Yeah.
can get so much done when I'm not fighting my own body, which was really nice. But yeah, it's, it's money. And for a long time, it was, I have to get up and I have to go to work because I need the money
Mhm.
to pay my bills and support my family. And so you did what you have to do.
Yeah. It's hard work.
You touched a little bit about building up your own community using the podcast.
Mhm.
How does that help when it comes to those days when your mental health isn't so good?
I'm very used to kind of bottling it up. Like, I come from the north of England, which for a lot of people means you just don't talk about feelings. I don't know if like you have that experience, Ames, but it's yeah, like in my family, we never talked about like mental health until I started experiencing it. Um, so I kind of ended up oversharing a lot on the internet in my teen years. But also, I think it helps to have a place where you're allowed to say, like, I feel disgusting today, like, my brain's not letting me do anything. I think it's important to have an outlet for that when that's happening. Bottling it up certainly doesn't make it better. And so, yeah, I don't think it helps me an enormous amount, but it's always nice to know that people are there to listen, and also that they might have been through the same thing and they might have some of the same struggles. Because like I said, like I grew up and it was never talked about, illness, chronic illness, disability, even though I lived in a house with both of those things, it wasn't, the impact of them wasn't really talked about. So I felt like I was navigating it all on my own until like adulthood. So that was kind of me taking it into my own hands, like, no, we need to talk about this. So if I can make a space where people feel like they can do that, then I'm doing something at least.
I think having a space as well where people can say that I'm having a crap day, or this has happened, or that's happened, or whatever, and say it just for the sake of saying it,
Mm-hmm.
rather than saying it and receiving a ton of unsolicited and unwanted advice about how to make it better, is also really, really helpful. Like, I get it, like it's coming from a place of, well, half the time it's coming from a place of love, the other half I don't know, but depends who's saying it. But yeah, sometimes you don't need the advice. Like, you know what you need to do, you know what the right thing is, you know what you should be doing, you know.
Yeah.
Take your meds and drink lots of water and get lots of sleep, and no, that's, you know, that's great. But sometimes you just want to just rant and say, this is really bugging me right now, and in 10 minutes it'll probably be fine, but right now this is really bugging me and I just need to get it off my chest. And I think in a world where we are increasingly not reliant, but you know, we are on social media so much more, and therefore people are available to give their unsolicited and unwarranted opinions. It's nice to be able to say something and not have to have that thrown back at you.
Yeah, exactly. I think I hate it when people, because it feels like when they're given advice, it feels like they're simplifying what you're feeling. And like in that moment, it doesn't feel simple at all. And it's also assuming that you don't know how to take care of yourself. Like you haven't already tried these things to help you feel better. Like I remember one of my friends, when I first was dealing with anxiety, was like, have you tried eating melons? And I was like, no. I can try, but I don't think it will help. And then she was like, have you tried going strawberry picking? And I'm like, no, I haven't done that. It's a bit more deep rooted than that.
I'm intrigued now. What's the magic about? No, I'm not going to finish that sentence because that could get me in a whole load of trouble.
Yeah. Apparently they have some.
No. Who knows?
Apparently they have some, I don't know, antioxidant or something in them that can increase happiness. Which is great for sapphic authors.
Melons.
Just stop it right now. Like, I stopped myself. You don't need to now push me over the edge about melons making me happy.
I think it's not bad advice, to be fair.
Yeah, you can eat more melons, but you might still be depressed afterwards. I don't know.
Even if it's temporary happiness for a moment there.
Yeah.
You can't really go wrong with melons.
No. But I find it's the same with, like, even going to the doctor. They look, because I'm overweight, which is like partly to do with my chronic illness as well, like binge eating. And they just look at you and you're like, well, you just need to lose more weight. And they take your blood and you're like, oh, you're low on iron. And it's just like, but they don't offer like therapies or like anything that can help you long term. It's just, they just look at you and they think they know exactly how to fix you, and it's really simple.
Or
And
when
it's the same.
When you have a digestive disease and they're like, just eat healthier. And you're like, well, what does healthier look like? Because
Yeah,
for my husband, you know, it's low fiber, low fat. Well, that means he pretty much eats the crap that you're not supposed to eat, because that's what he can eat to not flare up his digestive problem. So which is it?
yeah, exactly. I'm safer eating like a full pizza than a bit of spinach. Like,
Absolutely, yeah.
and yeah, which is like another part of the low iron thing as well. Like I would love to eat healthily, but it takes energy and it's not good for my digestive system. So it is really hard. Like there's no straight answers for you.
Or even just exercising.
Yeah, another thing. When you hate exercising, it's not going to help you mentally.
Or when you hate it, or when it aggravates the digestive
Yeah.
issues too, because you're moving, well, you're moving the exterior of your body, but your interior is also moving in the process of that, which it's a whole cycle of awfulness. And
It is.
doctors also just seem to offer the simplest solution: eat healthier.
Yeah. I feel like Ames is still laughing at the melons.
No, I'm not laughing. I'm not. I was getting ready for the next question, which is your rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So first answer that comes into your head. It doesn't have to be massively serious. It can just be what it doesn't have to be massively, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I told you earlier in the week and I can't remember what I said.
Doesn't have to be intelligent, specific, relevant.
That was what I was going for, intelligent, but there was another word that meant enlightening. That was what I was
Well,
going
I'm not
for.
very intelligent anyway, so this is great for me.
I literally just couldn't think of the word, Rachel. I mean, like, this isn't a great start, is it? So first question, what's your dream destination vacation?
Prague.
Oh, it's nice there.
Ivy lives there, and
Oh, is that
I
where
planned
Ivy
to
is?
go. Yeah, I planned to go and meet her, but yeah, I cried a week before and was like, I can't do it. So I didn't go. So I would love to go.
What is your trope, whether either in your relationships or as you as a person?
Ooh. I think grump sunshine, but like I'm both a grump and a sunshine. That's me.
Where did you see kindness today?
My cousin texted me to ask if we can play Heads Up, and it really, you know, the game where you have cards on your head. And it just really makes my heart full when she's 11, so when like little kids kind of want to spend time with you, it feels like I'm doing something right.
The first week of the summer holidays, so I've got 2 you can borrow if you ever need them for the next 5 weeks.
1 is enough for me.
Okay.
I'm on week 9 of summer vacation.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
If anybody
9.
deserves a break, I
The
deserve a
holidays
break.
are ridiculous. Yeah.
We have
Oh my
13
God.
weeks of summer vacation over here.
Holy cow, that's a
4
lot.
weeks left. So I'm
Yeah.
counting down the days.
Oh my gosh. I think that adults deserve a lot of many weeks of vacation as well. Like it's so I think that's one of the things that is I struggle with as well. Like I used to have all this time in summer and now I'm just always working. Like my life always looks the same no matter what season it is.
What's your philosophy on good mental health?
Pizza. I told you I was going to say it, and that's what it is.
I thought you were going to go with melons.
Melons. You've convinced me about the melons as well.
Where did you find joy this week?
I had my cover reveal today, so that was very lovely, and I got lots of nice messages for that. But in general, every night I find a little bit of joy with Ivy. We FaceTime every night and we just exist together, and it's very nice.
Okay, folks, that's all for our latest episode of Bookish and Unbalanced. We would love to thank Rachel for sharing with us today. We also want to thank our listeners for tuning in and getting to know Rachel just a bit better than before. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons to keep up to date on our latest episodes. Until next time, take care out there, and remember, we are all in this together.
Now you need your paper.
Paper matches the wall.
Wait, so what? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Do I have to do this as well?
Yeah. Let me just throw it.
Toss it.
Oh, it's okay.
Don't hit the dog.
You can throw the whole notebook. Just don't hit the dog.
You can throw the whole notebook. Don't just hit Enzo. We've had post-it blocks before, so a notebook's fine.